So bear with me because we had a login to, and then I kind of turned the things mute because I was thinking about something, and then here we are. But the real issues to me, when the people says, what are your top questions that people asking all the time? I say, sure, I'll answer very quickly. The number one is always the same. What is your favorite wine? So what is my favorite wine? The one I got in front of me, the one I'm sharing right now with my guest, with my friend, with the concept of the time we in, is the simple and most important bottle of wine. Now, I know that the question could be very simple, but actually it's kind of loaded, to be honest with you. It's got a more to it, because sometimes people ask you that question because they want to be validating some of the things they believe in that are the wine of the year, the wine of the month, the best wine, whatever the group thinking is about. And wine isn't about that. I'm not in love with a bottle of wine. I don't believe there is a bottle of wine out there that is the best there is. There isn't. I don't think so. I never met it. Because I found myself so many times tasting an incredible bottle of wine, and I thought, wow, this is incredible. And then the next bottle, or 2 years later, or 2 weeks later, or 2 days later, oh, Jesus Christ, this is the most beautiful bottle of wine I tasted in a while. And I just had the one 2 weeks ago, right? Because our memory, it's about the time. And then the only time you can compare or reflect is over a period of time. So just please bear with me. The greatest bottle of wine in the world is the one you have in front of you. And I hope you sharing with the right people at the time. So to me, it's more about going to the cellar, choose the best bottle of wine for the moment, for the event that I have, with my guests, with my food, and that immediately becomes the best bottle of wine I love, because that is the moment I'm sharing. So the number two questions: what is the most expensive bottle of wine you had? And that is really interesting, because wine business is a very peculiar one, just like art and cars. It's very speculative. And the numbers really doesn't reflect the bottle at all. The number has to do with the supply and demand, the rarity, the uniqueness, who's looking for the wine. And so, to me, what is the most expensive bottle of wine? To be honest with you, is the worst bottle of wine I had for any money. That's the most expensive bottle of wine, because I wasted my time, I wasted my money, and I didn't enjoy it. So therefore, to me, that is the most expensive bottle of wine, because when I look at wine, I look at it this way. It doesn't matter what the price is. If I'm enjoying it, if the wine is great, if it creates the moment that I am looking for, or I enjoy, I really crave for it, then the price is just the price of the entrance. And so what it is, nothing else, nothing more. So when you're talking about price, you're really talking about subjective conversation. It's not objective at all. It's one of those conversations that kind of fluffs up in the air just to make a ego fluffing around. Some people, oh yeah, I had a Petrus, so I paid the $5,000. You pay too much. Honestly, it's a Merlot. Relax. Well, it's Petrus. Yeah, I know some people, they drink out of a Dixie cup. So what? So, my God, my DRC, I paid the $12,000. You paid too much. Not that you did. Maybe you didn't. For you, it's $12,000. It can be in a lot, it can be little. For some people, it's a lifetime. The reality is, it's got nothing to do with the wine. It really isn't. It isn't. It's just a bottle of wine. What you pay for is what you see as a value. What is value to you? So the $1,000, or $500, or $50, or $20 represent a value. What's in the bottle represent an exchange. So if you believe that $1,000 is the fair exchange for the bottle, what's in the bottle, then you didn't pay too much. If what's in the bottle is $20 and you don't think it's worth it, then you're paying too much. So you see how things can really change. So conversationally, though, those things are done by people that really don't love wine. honestly. Because it doesn't matter if my friend has got a 60-foot yacht, or he's got a 100-foot yacht, or he's got a dinghy. If I like to go out in the ocean with my buddies and have a good time, that's it. We got a way of to get there and have some fun. That's what wine is. It's a way to get there for us to have fun. And sure, everybody's got their favor on somehow, somewhere, or a bunch of favors. And that's the beautiful things. So the sharing portion of it is the excitement. The cost of it's irrelevant, right? So put your harmonies here. Let's put your mind where your mind should be, which is, am I enjoying this wine? Is this wine creates the kind of emotion that it's worth for us to spend the time and have a wonderful conversation, great meals, or just a companion, right? If you go to a date and you feel that Cristal should be the wine to get the date done, buy a Cristal. Because you know what? You wanted the date to be successful. So if it's $400, what's the difference, right? You're trying to have a date. You try to hook up with somebody for a lifetime. $400, if you divide it by 30 years, that's nothing. It's a penny on a dollar. It's just not a value proposition that should be declined. You should be jump on it because it's cheap, right? Now, if you don't like somebody, why would you spend $400 for it? You know what I'm saying? Or $40 for that reason. Why don't you order a nice sparkling water and get over with it and move on and go to the next level, right? So, question number 3. How do you know when it's a great wine? Now, this one, it really, really gets me. How do I know? So the real question should be, how do you know? Not me, because I know when it's a good wine. I spend most of my life in it. This is what I do for a living. Of course I do know. You know, I it's too long to get into it. Is the right varietals, is the right locations, is the right fermentation, they are the right composition, chemical approach, is supposed to be too much wood or less wood. So all that nonsense that makes up our job what it is. So if you ask me a questions about how do I know when a wine is great, then the real question should be, how do I teach you to know when a wine is great, right? So obviously to me. So the real question that I ask myself when I look at a bottle of wine from a personal point of view, right? There are certain things I love about wine more than I don't. So one of them, I like the wine to be sincere, to be honest. What does that mean? Well, it means as simple as, if I drink a Barbera from a young vineyard, I want the freshness. I want the brightness. I wanted the juicy, easy, good acidity, nice spice, but not overly fabricated. That's honest, right? If I want a great Bordeaux from a prestigious first growth, there's certain things I expected. I want luscious elegance, smooth constitution to the wine. I want a clean, polished finish. I expect it. Right? So that to me are the keys that it determines if I'm in the right place with the right wine. Now, if I buy wine for my customers, it's different. It's different because I have to keep in mind what is that they are looking for and what they respond to positive and negative to. There are certain wines, they don't like it. There's certain customers' wine, they don't enjoy a certain level of acidity, even though I think it's a great. But they don't. They taste it. They don't have what I will say, and I don't want to use this word arrogantly because I don't mean that way. I mean, they don't have the basic farm culture of grape, vineyards, and wine, where they grow up in an environment where, grandpa, grandma, uncles, they make wine. They're really good. They're fresh. They're not great wine. They're really honest wine. They're really well made, but they are simple. And so you celebrate that simpleness because they are really good wine. They're healthy wine. They don't do anything to it. And they reflect just what is out there in the vineyard side. So for me, those are great wines, but they're not commercially excitable wine for some people. So this is very important because it will determine if they have a commercial side to it, which some of my clients or customers might think, yeah, it's nice, but I prefer a nice big Cabernet from Napa Valley. Well, of course. And if you do, not because the Cabernet from Napa Valley is better or worse, it's just because that's what they prefer. So to me, when I look at that question, I'm thinking, if it's for myself, I have an intimate relationship with wines. So what I like is not necessarily, what I think is great is not necessarily what everybody thinks great. It's just like a chef. You know, many times say, oh, I want to eat what the chef eats. Please don't. Because you don't know how much weird crap we like. And when I mean by crap, I really mean it in a way, in a nice way, because we are not your chicken and steak kind of people. We are chef. We work with food all the time. For us, filet mignon is like for you, chicken wings. So, for us at Branzino, it's just a sardine. We have them all the time. It's no big deal. So we get excited if we get tuna roll, and then we'll take the sack, we poach it, we marinate it, we do. Then you will think, Jesus, why am I eat a bunch of eggs here from a tuna? Out of all things. Or if we do, we get interior from a rabbit, and we love to do a sofrito things. If I tell you, you guys like, I don't know, I never had it before. So the truth of the matter is, yes, you will enjoy to eat some of the food we eat, but not everything we like, because we in the business all day long, we have a totally different appreciation of flavor, textures, and specialties. So the same question has a two answer, like most all things in life. Depends what we're talking about. Are we talking about my personal preference, or are we talking about your preference? What I buy from you or what I buy from me? Sometimes it's not too different in many cases. They are like a group of wine that reside right in the right center, from your classic Chianti to your beautiful Chardonnay from Russian River or from France or from Napa. So, and then there are the outsiders, the Semillon, the nice Pecorino, the beautiful Passerina, or just some Eterio Verdejo, or that you might like, you might don't like it, but we do love it. And in many cases, the customer goes like, it's okay. So I will suggest to have the answer in the way that is more plausible, which is, tell me, what do you think? It's a great wine, and the answer is, well, the great wines are the one they've done correctly. They are varietal correct. In other words, if it's a Chardonnay, it doesn't taste like everything else. If it's a Cabernet blend, then it's got a nice balance to it, and so on and so on. So that's the other question. The fifth question that it really comes on to most the time is, what, how do you know which glass you got to use? Well, that's a good one, because, and this one I actually feel for most of my customers, because there are so many glasses out there. If you love read, they come up with one every afternoon, because they figure out the more glass they make, the more you're going to buy. Remember when the stemless glass came, and every party you went, and that's people walking around. Besides the fact that it's really not a great glass, because you got wet hands all the time, it's actually not a healthy one either, because you got people grabbing your glass around the edge where you're drinking most of the time. And I thought, these people get excited about nothing. What's having eggs in your head? They're walking around and drinking a glass of wine. The reason why they put a stem is because you keep your hands on the bottom of the glass and not around where you're drinking, right? So to me, it's less about the container. It's more about the prodigal of the glass. The prodigal application is not that great. It's kind of disgusting if you don't know the truth. And now, I know a lot of people go, oh my God, I love it because it's so cool. No, it's not cool. Come on. Everything is cool these days? No, it's not cool. It's kind of disgusting, okay? You ever seen how many people's hands put on that glass? You know that we spend hours to polish all the glass and make sure that you get a beautiful crystalline looking glass every time, because we want a maxing experience for you to have the beautiful lights of the color of the wine and get the hue and all this thing. And then you show up with these half eggs in your hand and you're like, I'll pour a beautiful glass of wine. It's like, okay, you got fingerprints everywhere, right? And also, you don't know if you went to the bathroom or not. I don't follow you around, so I'm hoping that you wash your hands. Before COVID, that was supposed to be the same thing. We should always wash our hands, all right? So especially when you touch my wine glasses, let's just make it this as a point of reference. So no, what is the best glass? Is the nicest way to put it, the simplest way to put it, without for you to go invest millions of dollars in glassware, is that for wines they have thin skin, Nebbiolo, Pinot Noir. If you get a bowl that is closing up a little bit on top, it will restrain the quick aerations. In other words, the loss of perfumes or aroma quickly through the shaft, because the little curves holds it down a little bit so that you can enjoy more the aromatic. If you have a strong skin, thicker skin, high alcoholic wine, you want a larger bowl on the bottom with a longer shaft. Because when you aerated the wine, when you swirl the wine, okay, you're getting the alcoholic portion of it to be evaporating straight up, quickly, in other words. And so that when you put your nose in and you don't get hit by all the alcoholic output, and you let the breathing of the wine become a much more, that's Italian, I'm touching everything. So get the breathing out much quickly and exhale much faster, so that when you actually go into the glass to aromatize your nose, you will get a much more the scent of the wine versus the alcohol of the wine. Okay, so this is the basics, really basics. Then you have white wines and you have sweet wines. Not much is different, to be honest with you. Sometimes it's that to do with more to have a range where you can enjoy wine in the different ways. So sometimes it's a question of a storage, or sometimes it's a question of a space. But, for white wines, the same things happens except in a smaller way. Like, so you see the German Riesling glasses, because they're very strong aromatic. So believe it or not, their shaft is straight up, because you wanted the diesel, the garlic, the truffle, whatever the mixture of aromatic is, to be exhaling pretty quickly, because you're still going to get quite a bit afterwards. But more mute aromatic wines, because most white wine are kind of aromatically mute. They're more in the palate. A good glass, a good shaft of medium dimension is always doing the job all the time. Now, for big Burgundy, then it's a little bit like the Pinot, because other than the same things, they have these beautiful aromatics that you want to enjoy over time. So I will use almost a similar glassware for the Burgundy white than I will do for the Burgundy red, but a big, beautiful Burgundy white will do, any glass will do justice, because it's got so much going on that over time you can get the aroma and get everything else. So, but if you, like me, I love glassware, I love wonderful bottles and all things. You can have a different set for different opportunities and occasion, which is nothing wrong with it. It's quite all right. But remember the principle behind the glass. The principle behind the glass is not to make the wine better. The principle around the glass to have you a better experience. Okay, because if you got to make the wine better, that means the assumption is that the wine, something's wrong with the wine. And that's not a good assumption. In other words, when you pull the cork and you smell the cork and something is wrong, the glass will not savor the wine. The wine is already have a problem. So the glasses should be enhance your experience or facilitating. So I always like to have glasses that are a little more bigger, because it simplifies the experience, but also it's got a little more volume to it. So when you pour on the bottom of the bowl, not on the top of the bowl, because you want to get maximum exposure into the rotation when you actually get the juice inside the glass, and then allows the exhale of the exit of the aroma, and so that you can perceive much more the aromatics, the first, the second, the tertiary, and all the other terminology we're going to use eventually in when we drink a wine, but to get a much more complete experience. So don't spend too much time on infinite amount of money about glass, because the I mean, unless you want to, please be the owner of your own commitments here. But to have also a lousy glassware is not a good thing. So start with a medium high quality glass, because drinking a good glass of wine is a pleasure, and you should make one. Then where do you want to go with that? Should you have the sommelier by Spigola or by Riedel? That's kind of it's your call. I've been in wine tasting with the professional wine drinkers, and believe me, it gets, yeah, you got what I mean. It gets over the top. They bring their own glass because you're tasting brand new wines with the tons of hook on it, and they're really even not even ready to be drink anyhow, and you're showing off something that is silly. If you're really working this business, as long as we have, even a Dixie cup will do most of the job, because we are looking for a certain thing. In other words, we're looking for fruit balance, we're looking for tannins, we're looking for aromatic within the varietal characteristic, and more importantly, we are tasting where the wine is at in a scale of readiness, and 99.9%. Most of the ageable wine, they're not. And so for us, it's just to find out the degree what they're at and then where they can go optimally. So as far as the young wines, the wine that we enjoy every day, those are pretty much, we're looking for the simple stuff, like they have a good acidity, good fruit, the wine is balanced, there's a nice body weight, and depends on what varietal we are talking about. But generally speaking, you really don't need a complicated fancy glass to decide that. That's really an immediate decision when you taste wine. It's like, okay, this Barbera, this, Rosso di Montalcino, it's nice. It's a good vintage year. There's got a nice fruit to it. It's something that the customers really can enjoy with a simple pasta, everyday drinking. It's not invasive. It's not too light. It's got a great fruit balance in between the acidity and the tannin. So you know right away. As soon as it hits your palate, you get the feeling, because that's what we've been doing all day long. I mean, it's like an athlete. That's what our palate is basically Olympian palates. We've been running this. We have a muscle memory, because that's what we do every day. We're seeing 2, 3, 4, 5 vendors a day with a different type of wine from all over the world. So, you do not need somebody who reads your palm to figure out whether a Russian River Pinot tastes like, or Sonoma Coast tastes like, or if there's too much fruit or there's a little fruit, if it represented the area or not. It doesn't take much to figure it out, unless something is completely out of the ordinary. In other words, if they bring a Pinot from Santa Lucia Island that tastes like a Syrah from Australia, then you stop and say, whoa, back off. What the hell? What's going on in this glass? Other than that, things are pretty much in line. It's just questioning to see where the wine fall in a scale of quality according to your taste and the customer you try to sell to, or the friends you want to serve to. Question number 6. This is a pretty one. It's really a pretty question, because sometimes people look on things from a very strange perspective. We think of a bottle of wine as something that you pull the cork, you pour, tell the story a little bit. There's something backstory that is really nice and interesting, or it's just a good bottle of wine. You picked it up and you enjoyed. You had a good experience, like you went to Napa or you went to San Ynez Valley and you had a good time with your friend, and you actually enjoyed that wine. So you bring it back and you say, "Hey guys, I was up there and I really liked this wine." So then the real question is, why you choose this wine? And this is a cute question, because everyone does have a reason. Now, some just because the price was right? You want to spend the $15 and that thing was $14.99, so you grab it. But actually, no, a lot of people, they choose a bottle of wine because there's something about that wine that they like. Even simple thing like a nice label. You know, they really enjoy the label. It was attract to them. And so I think in this particular case, it's a much more personal than the question seems to be. And sometimes question like that, it requires the person to really explain a little bit. Because after all, we don't want to be the university where people come, here's the professor and here are the students, and we talking and you listen. It's we learn a lot more when you talking and we listen. And so when I listen to my friends and customers, I say, I went to Alexandra Valley, a friend of mine who was so insistent about this particular producer. And I said, what do you like about it? And he said to me, well, I really enjoy their Cabernet Franc. It's like, wow, okay. Well, what did you like about it? And he got stalked. It's like, I liked him. It's like, no, I get that. I know, I appreciate that. But what did you like about it? It was the building. It was the people, the color of the bottles, the shape of the bottles. What is it? And so from a consumer standpoint, from a simple, I think it would be advantageous for everyone to put little thought into that question. And not because you want to be eruditis or highly educated in the matter, but just be personal about it. Because that to me, it's really about, something moved you. It could just be that the people working there were really nice to you. That's important. It's very important because we respond well when people are gracious to us. We respond well when people acknowledge us, right? So you walk into a wine shop or you walk into a restaurant or you walk into a winery and you find a nice host. Say, oh, welcome, it's the first time you're here. We will want you to relax. We want to show you a couple of things that are very interesting about our winery. And by the way, where are you from? Yeah, so whatever the reason is, I like you to pay attention to that reason because that motivated you to buy a wine and to want to share with us. And that is very, very important. It's not something that it's more important than what is the most expensive bottle of wine I ever drink, believe it or not, because that means that I can understand your persona, what you like, what makes you click, what gets your attention, or better yet, what do you appreciate, what do you enjoy? Is just a great bottle of wine or a great human relationship? It's the right impressions or the right wine? That is the questions, and the answer is simple to me. If we do pay attention, and if people feel comfortable to allow to answer that question, then we will find out the answers to that questions. And so rather than I have the answer for you, I think you should have the answer for us. So then when you present a bottle of wine, what I would love you to do is to tell us a little bit why. And simple, not make it complicated. Don't try to impress anybody. Just be impressive by being you. Just be impressed by being you. What was it? It doesn't matter. Maybe it was a painting on a wall that was really interesting, and underneath you saw this bottle and I said, wow, it's really cool. But whatever the reason is, you will find the answer. And the answer sometime, the wine is a wonderful medium for us to interface or to express. And so through the wine, we can express ourselves, our feelings, the way we feel about people, the way we feel about ourselves, the way we want to be treated, the way we like to treat other people. So that's why I say life of wine. a wine life. It's one of the same because it's nothing more, nothing less than this little process that we call living. Right? So I like you to answer that questions. Why do you choose the bottle of wine? I know why. Because I do this every day. I have modus operandus. I have reasons. My reason is simple. Whether I try to talk about that wine because of something's really interesting about the wine, or the locations, the varietals. Like the next event I'm going to do is going to be about extreme vineyards or extreme winemaking methodology. I have a reason. I want you to know there are areas around the world where things are extreme. They are not easy to make the wine, and the wine they make, they're not easy wine. But they do. And what makes people do what they do is what I'm interested into. It is an answer, a question that I like the answer to. And I want you to be participant into the process that you see or share with me some of the emotion that I get from those wines. So without category, without classification, without scoring boards, just a simple one-on-one or one-on-five conversations where we say, hey, I noticed this and this has got my attention. I want this attention to be your attention. Just, I want to share this with you and see if you see what I see, or even see something that I've not seen it. So the number 8 questions that I get a lot of time in the wine event is one of the kind of baffles me, to be honest with you. You know, if you have one wine, what would that be? And baffle me because that's out of all the things in the world. This is one thing I do not have one. You know what I mean? And I wonder who came up with that. I have seen this only in this country, where people always ask you the fatal ultimate question, like if you stranded in an island and you needed to have John or Cindy, who you kill first? I'm like, why should I kill them? I need somebody to help me get out of the damn island, or at least if we stay there stuck all our life, we have some friends to talk to. It's weird to me. Honestly, it's a weird question. It's maybe mentally I can't wrap myself around the concept of one thing, because I never saw life into one thing. Why? Life is complicated. It's complex. It's wonderful. It's messy. It's made of so many things. It's like viruses. We now don't have one virus. We want to talk about COVID, but we got everything around us. We are full of viruses. Some that bother us, some that good, some that bad. But one bottle of wine, it's all you want to talk about to me? No, I refuse it. I'm never going to answer that question because there is no such a thing. And I tell you why it isn't. Because you don't know in that instant, in that moment. Let's say the world come to an end. Do you honestly believe that I'm going to focus on a bottle of wine rather than shelter or surviving? My friend, I'm going to find out the first gallon of water I can have with me, because I can survive with the water. You know, wine I can get drunk, but after a while I'm going to be very thirsty because the alcohol is going to dry my mouth. The tonic is going to dry my mouth. I'm an intelligent human being, okay? I'm not a dumbass. So don't come up with this stuff that it makes no sense to me at all. So I laugh about it. I be cute about it, but believe me. So here's what I said to all of you out there. If you're married, you're only allowed in this society, unless you're polygamous, to have one wife. I suggest to be faithful, because the aftermath of that will be incredibly painful, extremely expensive, and you're not getting nothing out of it. But when it comes to wine, be unfaithful as much as you can, because you learn so much about yourself and your palate and your experiences. And believe me, there's something to be celebratory about being unfaithful when it comes to wine. I always cheat on my Sangiovese. Sometimes I do it in a Nebbiolo, sometimes I do it in Cabernet. Sometimes I even do it in Barbera. Even with less pretty wine than Sangiovese. And sometimes I like a big, chubby Amarone with a lot of big body, voluminous body. Sometimes I like a sexy, slimmed down version, of a Pinot. But the other time, I just like some nasty Mourvèdre. Just because from Bandol, kind of stinky and over the top or overripe. Because there's nothing more exciting, the anticipation of a love affair that hasn't happened yet, but it will happen tomorrow or the day after. So, yes, please, if you have a wife, or if you have a girlfriend, or if you're in a serious, involved relationship, please do be faithful. Have that. That is your commitment. But when it comes to wine, don't listen to those guys. Is if you're going to have one, it's like, first of all, I don't. But if I'm going to cheat, I'm going to grab at least 3, whatever is available before the world finishes. And then I'm going to make sure that I have a gallon of water with me and a nice piece of bread and some salami, so that if we go down, and a nice piece of cheese, whether it be taleggio, it will be a great parmigiano. If we go down, let's go down in style, so that when the world ends and the story is going to be written of the end of the world, says, that guy, Chef Massimo, we found him, and he had like 3-4 bottles of wine. He had a beautiful charcuterie plates. Man, that guy must be laughing his ass before he passed. And that's the answer of number 8. Number 9. This one I kind of flipped around a little bit, because I didn't know whether it was a popular question or is a question that I keep on lingering in my ears all the time. And it's kind of a passing kind of questions that people ask a lot. And it's one of those things is like, what do you do when you have people over that they don't really know about wine, and should you serve your best bottle? And here's my honest answer to you. Remember, when you're drinking wine, the question is, you are drinking wine. Would you want to open a lousy bottle of wine and drink it because you think your friend that doesn't know wine? Or, better yet, would you like to open a nice bottle of wine for your friends and share your thoughts, your personal love, your experiences with your friends? Because the goal of sharing is not whether your friends know about wine or not. The goal is about sharing, right? Would you want to share good things with your friend? Because that's what I do. That's what I like about my friends. I don't invite people over that I don't like. My house is my sanctuaries. So if you're in my restaurants, if you're in my house, I want you to have a wonderful experience. I don't prejudge people, whether they do or they don't. And, people volunteer. Oh, I'm not really a big wine lover. Or I don't know a lot about wine, but I like wine. Great. It's a wonderful opening to the next level of conversation. Oh, great. I have a nice bottle of wines I want you to enjoy with me. And by the way, I picked up this bottle because. And you go into it and have some fun. You realize immediately that even the people that don't feel they are knowledgeable about wine, or they feel a little bit awkward about wine, you will notice immediately they feel comfortable. And if you get one thing out of this, which is the appreciation, the people understood from the very beginning, you didn't judge or prejudge them as people that don't know about wine, so why bother, right? That is the worst feeling I ever had. When I hear things like that, I have to say honestly that it annoys me. It annoys me because we're talking about a bottle of wine, right? You're not giving your friend a Ferrari. You open a bottle of wine that you're going to enjoy with them. Why wouldn't you take that opportunity to share a passion, a love that you have, and a good bottle of wine that you have sitting in the cellar anyway? What was the point of buying wines if you don't want to share it with your friends, regardless who they are? So the answer is very simple. Don't do that. Open a good bottle of wine for anyone, because everyone and anyone at some point in time will graduate to a better product, thanks to you, thanks to your generosity. And also, thank you to your intelligent approach to simple things like this about life. Be kind, be smart, but more important, enjoy the wine that you actually bought. So that brings us to the question that I always hear from people: why are you so passionate about wine? Well, I tell you, this is the real questions that I love to answer to all of you. I wasn't passionate about wine when I was growing up because I grew up in the wine. It was something that it was ordinary to me. And we did it as a farming. You know, we used to farm zucchini, we used to farm grain, we farm anything else, and grapes was part of it. Olive oil actually was the most exciting thing because my mom was excited about it. Plus, we used olive oil in everything. As a kids, you know, wine was in the middle of the table. It was like common stuff. It was cheaper to have a wine in my table to actually have a soda. So we didn't have a soda. In fact, we never drink soda when we grew up. And not that I care about it, to be honest with you. But to be sincere, honest, wine was everywhere. We had them by the gallons. And in fact, in so many ways, for a while, I didn't thought of wine of anything except a bunch of old people get drunk all the time. So what was it that it made this product so amazing to me? I had to be looking back sometimes when I actually got to Switzerland, the French Switzerland, in a town called La Chaux-de-Fonds. La Chaux-de-Fonds is about 1,200 meter elevations in the canton of Neuchâtel, which is the French canton. You know, Switzerland's got German, Italians, Valais, and then the French canton. My uncle was a farmer, a great farmer on that, and a really great chef, but he never was a professional chef. He was just a great chef. And he always hummed around the people they cooked, and he knew this restaurateur, Monsieur Laurent. They owned, it was the general manager of this particular place called La Frédéri's Hotel, a small boutique hotel right on the end of Léopold Robert, which is the main road in the French town of La Chaux-de-Fonds. La Chaux-de-Fonds is right next to Le Locle, where they actually made all the factory for watchmaking. So Geneva is known to be the watch, but that's all the artisanal stuff. The commercial stuff were made in Le Locle. So the early migration to Switzerland were all the farmers, like my uncle. They went there to work to the farm industry, which was basically cow, milk, and milk product, butter, cheese, and so on. So then the watch factory shows up, and then they basically went to work inside because up there in high elevation is pretty damn cold. And I've been there. I know how cold it gets. So I was a young hotel student, and so I went to visit my uncle, and my uncle said, hey, if you want, you can do a little part-time or full-time if you want while you're here to this hotel, because I know the general manager there. So I went to, and I loved it because I want to. And I met the cellar master. I used to call Quasimodo because he was an old little guy, kind of all crooked. And he, remember, before the master sommelier and before the master wines, there was a cellar master, someone who spent his life, his profession, to take care of wine in a very highly specialized cellar. So this particular hotel, it was a small boutique hotel, like 70, 80 rooms, not even that many. But the best of Switzerland used to go there. And they had a cellar that it was magnificent. We called the cave. So you would go downstairs in the guts of the earth, and there was like 4, 5, 6 amazing room where all different bottles from different vintages and everything else. And I seen it, but never really seen this kind of display, this sexiness, this mysterious area. So I went down there and I spoke with Monsieur Quasimodo, and his name was his name wasn't Quasimodo, okay, it was Jean-Jacques. And so I called Quasimodo, and he used to call him a petit Italien because I was a little Italian guy. So I went down there because I was so curious, and as a kid I was always well liked by everybody. I had this big infectious smile, and it kind curious about everything, and I ask all the right question apparently because I'm a farmer. So I ask him, the guy, "What are you doing down there? It looks so nice, with all the candles and everything else." And he mentioned to me that that was his career. It's like, "What do you mean down there?" He said, "Yes, I want to show you something." So I walked down there, and the very first thing I saw, was a set of a bottle openers of a different shapes and size, which I thought were so beautiful, with the right knobs, and then a set of brushes, like my father beard brush. Like, "What are you doing that?" It's like, well, when you pick up a special bottle of wine, you have to have a certain level of reverence. It's been laid down for so many years. There is a story about this bottle of wine, and you want to make sure that you honor the story. And I'm thinking, okay, that's interesting. Because in my house, they send me in the back room in the cellar, which I have a cellar like him, but not like the 6X room. It's just a big downstairs cellar. And I have like a 50-gallon glass jug in a wick basket. And I pour that in a 5-gallon, and I bring upstairs, and my uncle and my father and his friend, they just get drunk. So what is he talking about? And so he reaches out for this beautiful bottle, great label, and you see all the dust on top, and he starts brushing with such love and care. And then he tells me about the wine. I was fascinating. And then, I didn't even know what was in there, to be honest with you. I mean, I was 15 years old. But I saw this human being had such a love affair with the process, with the ceremony, such a dedication to this craft. And I say, wow, that's really amazing. And so I start asking questions to him. It's like, well, how long you been doing this? And he tells me, most of his life's career. He's been working, and this was the honor of his lifetime to accumulate this amount different wines. And of course, now I can tell you, that was one of the most beautiful cellars, second only to Lasserre in Paris when I worked, where, Pierre Lasserre had some of the most amazing wines ever made, collected underneath the whole Place de Magdeleine. And this, for a small boutique hotel, had one of the highest revered bottle of wine you can imagine, 45 DRC and Latour and Lafite, and so and great Hermitage, and at the time honestly, I didn't have any idea what those wine were, except the fact that he went on and talked to me about them like they were girlfriends and friends and whole friends of them and people he lived with and he traveled with, and it was that who got me in. Anyone who has this much passion, this much love, this much integrity for his craft, this much dedication, you want to pay attention. You want to understand why this person is so enamored with this. And then I saw the end result, which is even more spectacular. So we had, at the time, in the 77, 76 period, we had still the habitué. Habitué is a French word for people that come all the time. And the people that seasonally come in, the Swiss bankers and so on and so forth. And they had already known what they drink, how they drink, what they eat. In fact, the restaurants, La Fleur de Lis was known for the Grand Chasse. Grand Chasse means the big hunt. And it was a spectacular presentation. We started with a Petit Four, which was a silver tray with about 10 different tasters, pearl onions done in a balsamic vinegar, or nice little fennel heads poached in tarragon and saffron, and things like that. So that would be a teaser when you come in. And then the coup de grace was the the wild goats, big loins, and we do flambe table side, not me, but the maitre d table side. And then we had the different wines going along with it, and they all came in a beautiful wicker basket with the right glassware, already being aerated. In other words, they were open earlier for the right proper time, and then pour to the clients and the guests. And when I saw that, I understood immediately this was a different world. This was not my dad, my grandpa, my uncle. They get toasted with their friends, which is beautiful. It's fun. It's great. It's gregarian. It's convivial. This was a total different outlook, elegance, process. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I want to know more of it. And so I asked Jean-Jacques, I said, how you get there? He goes, well, the very first thing you should always do in life is to be curious. Never lose your curiosity. Never lose your desire of learning, because there's much to be learned every single day about everything. But the other thing is, approach everything you do with the utmost respect for the product, the process, and the people. The product, the process, the people. And if you do that, you get so much more reward back than the value of the bottle you're serving. Because you're creating a symbiotic relationship in between your love and what they love. And you bring it into a place where all has its own harmony. And that, to me, is what I live for every day. When I look on my customers and I look on the wines, I look on the collections that I put together, I keep all those things in my mind, and I'm thinking what Monsieur so-and-so will love. This will be really great for the birthday. This will be magical for the anniversary. And I know that he was looking for the 45 or the 48 or the 39, whatever you. I want to anticipate that. And that to me became way above just the understanding who's the winemakers, how many points it was scores, what's the coolest thing this month, what is the words of the year, is this organic, is this biodynamic, is it because Jean-Jacques told me something that is still resonate with me today. The respect for the product, the process, and the people. So I hope I have given you enough to play with the next event you do. Respect the product. Respect the process. Respect the people. Whether the bottle wine is $10, $10,000. Whether your friend understands the wine or doesn't understand the wine. Whether you use the right glassware or don't use the right glassware. If you do that, if you respect the product, the process, and the people, you're always going to do the right thing. And for that, I am glad I was talking to you today. You have a wonderful afternoon. Ciao.